Hi, my name is Carsen Komminsk. I'm a graduate senior on the women's volleyball team here at UMass Boston. I also serve as the SAC president. And today we will be joined by Jackie Schuman, the new athletic director. Thank you, Jackie, for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and talk with us about diversity and inclusion. We're super excited to have you here and very thankful that you were able to make some time for us.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here with you, and it's an important topic. So I'm glad to be able to speak to it, especially here at UMass Boston. So thank you.
First off, coming in as the new athletic director at one of the most diverse universities, how do you plan on maintaining and cultivating diversity within our athletic community?
One of the things that attracted me to UMass Boston is its diversity, diversity in culture, ethnicity, socioeconomic background, diversity in terms of experiences of the students, where they come from, and the different lifestyles, and backgrounds that they come from and homes, and also diversity in our staff as well. And so I think it's really important to be able to tap into what that means, for everyone in our community, and to find a way to be able to tell the stories of our students, of our staff, and of our community, and to make sure that, especially within the Department of Athletics and Recreation, that we're able to foster an inclusive environment where, wherever you come from, whatever that background is something that's welcomed, and a way to cultivate that diversity is to really use what is richness in experience, and different types of experiences, so that everyone in our community really gets to learn from all the different backgrounds that we have. And that's really where it's important, to make sure that, we are building a community, where people are able to share more about their backgrounds, be who they are. And I think that, we sit in an environment where, we're representing what the world looks like. We're representing what our country looks like, in diversity. And we get to create, a learning experience where when you come to our environment, you're really learning about the richness of diversity in our country, in our society, in our world. And so I think it's really important to cultivate those relationships within our community, across teams, across cultures, across backgrounds, and find ways to get those stories and those voices out, and to really build a community that is strengthened by that diversity.
What adversity have you experienced being a woman of multiple identities within college athletics?
Yeah. So, one, I think being a woman in college athletics, especially in leadership, can be really challenging. At a younger point in my career, I actually thought that to be successful, what was most important was that I gained respect of men, which really speaks to what probably was my understanding of the dominance of, men in our field, in athletics and in sport. And I didn't actually realize the impact I was having on young women and, women in athletics. And until a student athlete sat in my office and told me how much, her and her teammates looked up to me, and that they felt like, they were seeing somebody that was like them in athletics when they were around me, and they were essentially, looking for how I was modeling behavior. And so I would say, that might not come across as adversity right away, but to people, but, it kind of showed me that I was trying to fit in a way that I thought was the only way I could be successful in college athletics, which was if I could, mirror the way that, men seem to move and act in our industry, then I might be successful. But I actually was missing that we as women are a part of college athletics, and the way that, we lead, some of the ways that we may uniquely build relationships, lead, and impact and model the way for people, both men, women, people of all different backgrounds in our environment matters. And so, it's one of the ways that I've experienced adversity, because that's not always been welcomed as well. And, then as it relates to coming from multiple identities, I come from a background on my dad's side, of Jewish heritage. On my mom's side, my family is Southeast Asian and European, mainly Dutch, Indonesian. People often ask my background, are sort of confused about my identity, constantly want me to identify myself. I experience almost like a confusion about who I am in the space of athletics, which tells me that it's so important for people to feel like they can pinpoint you into the identity that they think you fit in, because there's likely a stereotype attached to that. I don't know how else to say that. But my entire career, people have been trying to figure out, well, what is your background? So I'll know how to approach you. And so it tells me that there are these really strong stereotypes tied to what people think your identity is or what your identity is. Mine doesn't really totally fit in anyone's box, and it confuses people. And I think it actually bothers people that it then makes them feel like they don't know how to approach me. So as it relates to adversity, I think those two things really both stand out to me in my experience, and what I would share with other people, which is it's really important for you to know who you are. And as a leader, in this field, in this industry, and, as a woman in this industry, from multiple identities and period, to carve out the path to the leadership that you want to display and the impact that you want to have, and to be clear about what that means to you and what you're going to deem as sort of acceptable in how we treat each other in that space. So that's sort of the way that I would explain that. I think there's been much adversity in that. And often there's a ton of judgment that comes with what the perception is of, what people expect from you being a woman or being of whatever identity you come from. And it's important that you know who you are to be able to have the confidence to lead in the way that you see fit, that fits with who you are, not what people think you should be.
I like that a lot. I really, really like that. Can you tell me the importance of having a diverse staff and group of coaches on campus within an athletic community?
Yeah, I really like that question, because I think it's critical to have a diverse staff and group of coaches. One, I think it's really important to be able to have different perspectives come to the table around how we make decisions, how we center our students. I think it's, important because it helps us get better, and it helps us grow, and it helps us be curious about different ways of doing things. It helps us innovate. And at the end of the day, we want our student athletes, as I shared in my experience, to be able to see and connect with people who they feel like maybe have walked their path. And so, to see that there are different kinds of people in our Department of Athletics and Recreation, of, multiple backgrounds, identities that come from different types of environments growing up, that actually helps us relate to our student athletes, and it helps them relate to us. And so, we are in a place of higher education, and our goal is to make sure that our student athletes have the richest experience possible, and that they are educated, and athletics is an integral part of the educational experience. And part of that education is their interaction with people, and how they learn through people, and how they learn through their professors that are educators, and their coaches and administrators who are also here as educators as well. And so it's important that they are learning from different perspectives, that they can see themselves in other leaders that they're working with, in their coaches, in staff members. And so that diversity really, helps us build an even stronger community for our student athletes and an even richer educational experience for them.
What would you like to see from us student athletes and staff on a daily basis to foster inclusivity?
One, I'd like to see proactive involvement and consideration of thoughts about how to approach creating an inclusive environment and how to highlight the diversity of the experiences that we have within our environment. I think from the student athlete perspective, obviously you're a part of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So, when we think about inclusivity and I think about the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, you all have a charge to better the student athlete experience on campus. You have the ability to impact what that looks like from a conference perspective and from a national perspective. And you have the ability to influence legislation at the national level. And so I think it's critical for our student athletes and, those that are working really specifically as well to better that student athlete experience, to make sure that there is involvement from people from different backgrounds and, involvement as a part of the committee, involvement in making sure that we're hearing of different voices and experiences, and involvement to be able to understand the needs of, our student athletes across the board from all experiences and what it takes to help foster the best experience for everyone across the board. And because of the ability to, in an organization like SAC, impact things on a national landscape, the more insight that you all have, the more representation you have on your committee in that group, the more influence you'll be able to have on the national landscape of the student athlete experience. And it's really critical. And so thinking about how you have participation in roles that influence governance and decision-making from broad perspectives is really important. And so from the student athlete perspective, I'd like to see our student athletes really being thoughtful and proactive about how to continue to engage our entire community in really representing the voice of the student athletes and influencing that experience in a really positive way, especially knowing we have the ability to do that in a way that affects a national landscape. I think we, sit in a place in Boston and in one of the most diverse institutions in the country where we can be leaders around those things. And I would like to see us lead. And I would say the same from our coaches and our staff. I think that, I've been on campuses where you're constantly looking to increase diversity. You're hoping that you can become a more diverse environment. You're hoping you can bring more diversity of perspective into the institution. We have it. And I think we need to find the ways to make sure that we're connecting the dots and really providing the best experience for everyone, understanding what that means. And then I am somebody who believes really strongly in the power that sport has as a platform to impact social justice issues. I think we have the ability to lead around those things in the way that we partner together, the way we partner with some of our programs on campus, like our sports leadership and administration program that is based in social justice and leadership. And I think we have to collaborate and leverage and maximize the opportunities from the type of institution that we have. And from my standpoint, that includes everybody. I, as a leader, will back that, will speak to it, and, will make sure that I am in front of it. And I think it's everybody's responsibility to further educate ourselves, to get better and to understand the ways that we can really lead around these issues that are affecting our nation and really the students that sit within our community on a daily basis.
Given your extensive work with diversity and inclusion, what are you hoping to bring to UMass Boston to promote inclusive and a diverse community?
So my answer to this question is really simple, and I would say it's my leadership as someone who understands the importance of diversity and inclusion. I think that something that people started to really hear over the last year and a half with the racial reckoning that really has occurred in our country is the importance of leadership and the importance of the voice of leadership in being able to speak to the issues that are happening and be clear about, what is acceptable as it relates to how we build diverse and inclusive environments and how we ensure that we are being equitable in what it is that we are doing, the experiences that we are providing and creating, and the opportunities that we are providing and creating. And that's what I bring to this position. It is one of the reasons that I decided to come to UMass Boston and to lead here is I understand the power of my impact as a leader around these things. And I understand that in taking on a position like this, I have a responsibility to exercise that leadership. And I have an understanding of these issues from the work I've done around social justice and sport for the last 15 years. And I intend to be a leader and to empower others on how we can get better and do better and lead the way from our institution. So that's what I bring.
Thank you. And just one last question before you go. What are some of your goals for the department around diversity and inclusion for this year and your future at UMass Boston?
One of our goals is really first and foremost to create a space of community, period. Right. And I think that I think we can do better within our department to build community. And I've seen our student athletes, coming into this year trying to do that. I think if people feel that community, it helps build and foster an environment of inclusion. Another goal is to create that community specifically for our student athletes of color so that they can have some space to come to try to connect with students who are directly understanding some of the challenges that they are facing and those experiences, and to really just know they have a community here within athletics and recreation to go to. And those are, I think, really foundational pieces for how we foster inclusion and diversity. And then I would say the other thing is to really start to get our student groups like SAC and some of our administrators who have been working on building out a student athlete equity coalition to start to think of the ways that we can further inclusion within our department and find ways, like I said before, for participation in governance and decision making from people from diverse backgrounds. And then the other thing I would add is, to understand and figure out where we might need further education for our coaches and our staff members and our student athletes so that we can do better on how we foster inclusivity. And so as I understand where we need further education, then putting a plan in place for how we're going to actually implement and execute on that education. So those are some baseline goals that I have for this year.
Awesome. Thank you again for taking time out of your day to sit down and answer these. I loved hearing your thoughts, experiences, and goals for the future here at UMass Boston. So we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to talk with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking your time and for taking the time to interview me as well. I appreciate it.